Hi everyone, my name is Nigger-Reecan CASILLAS-PASTRANA, and this is my project on poetry. Today, I will present you my analysis of Nigger-Reecan Blues, a poem written by Willie Perdomo, a person that suffered from racial discrimination. I chose this poem because it deeply explores the harsh realities of discrimination and the complex layers of cultural identity. It also personally resonated with me, helping me better understand the challenges my mom faced being a Black Puerto Rican from El Campo. The title before reading. Just from the title, I thought the poem will be about racism, identity, and probably suffering. The word blues immediately makes me think of deep emotions, strong feelings, and personal pain. Also, the compound word Nigger-Reecan suggests that the text will confront the unique experience of being a Black Puerto Rican. Overall, I predicted it will deal heavily with systemic discrimination and the struggle to define oneself. Paraphrasing this poem. Basically, in the poem, the speaker describes how people constantly question Willie's identity. Throughout the text, multiple voices test and label him, saying things like, "Tú no eres puertorriqueño, brother," or speculating that he is a mix of Portuguese and Chinese. They aggressively tell him that he is Black, while he tries to explain that his experience with discrimination is deeply tied to how he looks, comparing his struggles directly to what Black people go through in America. Then, the poem moves toward his personal life experiences. He notes that downtown, a white woman holds her purse tighter when he's near, and he can even catch a late-night taxi. Even his college professor and his friends label him, with his homeboy, David, telling him he looked like a stone Black kid. By the end, the speaker realizes that both Puerto Rican and Black people face massive discrimination and oppression based strictly on their outward appearance. The connotation. The poet uses several powerful devices to suggest a deeper meaning. First, he writes the dialogue in Spanglish, using lines like, "Pero mi pelo es kinky y curly, y mi skin no es negro, pero it can pass." This demonstrates how he communicates in the States and highlights his mixed cultural identity. Furthermore, by repeating explanations to others about how or who he really is, Perdomo exposes his internal feelings and deep frustration. The dialogue feels incredible naturally and realistic, sending a clear message about how often people encounter discrimination in their daily lives. The poem also creates a vivid, painful image of marginalization when describing the woman holding her purse tighter on Madison Avenue, which perfectly symbolizes putting someone aside or branding them as dangerous. Finally, the word blues serves as a structural symbol for collective suffering, pain, and ultimate impotence. The attitude and tone. The speaker's tone feels mainly frustrated, confused, defensive, and angry. This emotional state comes through clearly because the poem uses words and phrases that highlight systemic exhaustion, such as being neglected, rejected, oppressed, and even depressed. The speaker is constantly backed into a corner by society's refusal to accept his identity on his own terms. The tone shifts. A major shift happens when the speaker stops fighting the external labels. Throughout the majority of the poem, he reacts with strong emotion, insisting, "I am Black," or "I am Black man." However, at the very end of the poem, the tone changes from defensive denial to defiant acceptance. He loudly claims, "I'm a speak. I'm a nigger. I am no different than a nigger." This structural shift shows his internal battles with identity colliding with his battles against society. It feels as if he realizes he has no other option but to accept his situation, owning the derogatory terms to mock the white supremacy that groups all marginalized people together anyway. The title, After reading the poem, I now think that the title means that Black people and Puerto Ricans share a deeply linked history of discrimination. The union of the words Nigger and Reecan shows that they encounter identical racism and identity oppression. The blues element represents not just sadness, but the beautiful, raw art of expressing collective pain through music and spoken word, referring to a song that says Moreno soy. Theme. The poem is about a Puerto Rican man struggling with racism, but its deeper message is that society aggressively tries to define people's identity and forces them to endure discrimination based entirely in how they look. Perdomo exposes this theme by comparing the struggles of Black Americans and Afro-Latinos, showing how systemic oppression ultimately views them through the exact same lens. A clear line of evidence for this is when he concludes, "Speak, speak," no different than a nigger, neglected, rejected, oppressed, and depressed. This is the end. Thank you for listening. This poem made me think differently about the intersecting layers of Afro-Latino identity because it put into words the real frustration of living between two worlds while being targeted by the same racism. And this gave me another point of view of racism because my mom, she's Puerto Rican, but she's also Black. And she always told me all of the oppression and discrimination she had to went through. And this poem made me understand her more and be more empathetic. So thank you. If you have any questions, you can email me and I'll be very happy to answer them. Bye.